Hello again, everybody. Zacatech is here with something I've never done before. I've done paper reviews for WWE and UFC, but for the very first time in my YouTube career, I'm actually going to be making a full-length TNA pay-per-view review for Tna Slammiversary Xii, taking place tonight in Fort Worth, Texas. My friend bought the pay-per-view, so I watched it. And I haven't seen a TNA pay-per-view in a while. I watched a few. I even been to one. Ironically, Slammiversary 7 at the Palace of Auburn Hills in June of 2009. Now that one was pretty good. And this one, I thought it was a decent pay-per-view. You had one really good match, being the first match. 3 decent matches. And then 5 that were just okay. We had a lot of screwiness. And at least, the only good thing was, at least the main event wasn't screwy. We always have, in TNA, we've always known that TNA pay-per-views are always infamous for having the screwy WCW bullshit finish of a main event of a pay-per-view. But at least the main event wasn't a bullshit finish. At least that wasn't a bullshit. There was a lot of screwy finishes, but hey, that's TNA for you. That's what happens when I haven't watched TNA pay-per-views in a while. 6.5 out of 10. Like I said, it was a fun pay-per-view. It was very entertaining. Despite some little screwiness, it was still a fun pay-per-view. It all kicked off, like I said, the best match of the night was the first matchup for the TNA X Division Championship. Kind of a last-minute matchup. Wasn't a lot of hype. Like, I love TNA, but I've been saying in my TNA reviews lately, they make some bad decisions. TNA is like the Detroit Lions of the wrestling world. They have a lot of talent, but they fuck it up by making bad decisions. By not promoting the X Division enough. And this was kind of botched together, but it was still a fun matchup that began a 6-way ladder match with Sanada defending against Crazy Steve. Took a long time for the entrance, especially his. Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, both Wolves. I was sad to not see a tag team title defense tonight. The only titles that weren't defended tonight, except the television championship. Will Abyss ever defend that thing? Or is he just going to sacrifice it already? And also, Suicide, aka Manik. And this match was just crazy. A lot of great spots in this fun matchup. The Texas crowd, when they were good, they were good. Especially during this one. They were chanting a lot for Crazy Steve. I've been dissing the menagerie for weeks because they had a good build-up, but then they blew it with that silly segment in Crazy Steve's only first kind of stupid real match against this Kazarian in one of his last matches in TNA. But Steve, despite his, Steve did well, but mostly the MVPs in my mind were definitely Sanada and Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards. Seeing these two guys with a great double team, and even at one point these two were fighting for the belt at one point. Best spots in the matchup involved Eddie and Davey. They had like a big double team move, like off the top rope, with like a backstabber, and I think one of them tripped on a knee. I think it was Davey tripped on a knee. And another great. There was a lot of big flying spots. Like, you'd expect a great spot fest, and it was a great spot fest. There was some great action involving Tigre as well. Did some good flying moves, and there was another great move. Like I said, the backbreaker, that was the move, and you saw Davey limping on his leg a bit. And another great spot was a vertical suplex by Sanada and Eddie, setting him over the top. Well, that was a cool little spot with going off the floor. But the best spot of the match was the last spot before the champ was revealed. Manik and Davey were on the ladder. That was when Davey and Eddie were both fighting for the belt. And then Manik came in and did like a springboard vertical powerbomb move with there was a ladder in the it was like a big ladder and then like a ladder punched in the middle. And this little like vertical reverse powerbomb type move was like on one ladder landing on the other ladder that was put on the middle of the ropes. Like a little little mat there, and that was probably one of the best spots in the match, probably the best spot in the match. Everybody down, Sanada took the opportunity and grabbed the ladder. He grabbed the championship himself, kind of a sudden finish, but still, great matchup, great last spots. 3.5 out of 5, like I said, the best match of the night. Totally great action, great spots from all these 6 guys. Like I said, David and Eddie look very. I think these two, a few weeks ago, they kind of teased them being singles competitors when they were forced in a match against each other by MVP. And I think it could really be a good singles feud once they, because I know that like all good tag teams break up, and eventually all good tag teams must come to an end, so both guys can focus on singles careers. And when these guys do singles career, it'll be very interesting to see what they'll do as singles. And especially seeing them fight over the belt tonight, and a great powerbomb move, and a great spot, a lot of holy shit chant for that. So there you go. And we had like in this pay-per-view showed a lot of potential from a great first match. This pay-per-view was okay. Like I said, there's like I said, 1 really good match, 3 decent ones, and the rest were like okay. Now on to our next matchup. Of course, I've been saying it for weeks on my reviews. MVP had suffered an injury a few weeks ago in a match in Europe. This is what happens when TNA tapes their impacts way far in advance before pay-per-view. By the time the impacts air, somebody gets injured, somebody gets hurt. In this case, it was MVP. Now on Friday, it was announced that MVP wasn't able to compete. They're probably saving that after Impact aired on Thursday. I think they were probably saving the announcement about whether or not MVP was in or out or not until after Impact last week. That's exactly what they did. So, the backup plan, a plan B, was to have Eric Young in the triple threat match in the steel cage as slated against 2 challengers. Now, who would those 2 challengers be? They'll be determined in 2 qualifying matches. The first of which was Bobby Lashley taking on Samoa Joe. Second qualifier will be later. Austin Aries taking on Kenny King. Now MVP came out, talked about the situation, about him being out, blah, 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 and Dixie watching his every move now, not being screwy, blah, 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 and promised no interference in any of the matches involving his 2 cronies. And thankfully, like I said earlier, there was a lot of screwiness. But at least there wasn't any screwiness in any of those matches. And, of course, no screwiness in the main event. There was kind of a weird finish, though. In this matchup, though. Lashley and Joe. Joe's gonna kill you. This match was okay. You know, Joe did well, some good power moves. But then Lashley took over for the majority of the matchup. Then the finish was kind of weird. Like I said, no interference from anybody, as promised. But, like, the ending was kind of abrupt with Joe going for a big move, and then like he almost went into a referee, and then he went into a spear. And that was the finish. You know, the match was just okay. I kind of fell asleep during the match. To be honest, that match was just okay, especially because I fell asleep during it. Because it was just okay. It was okay action. I love Joe. He did try to go to Muscle Bustle at least a few times, and that's when he almost went into a referee and then walked into a spear. So that's how the finish happened. So, it was just okay. 2.0 out of 5. This match did not benefit both men. Speaking of match that could benefit somebody, on to our next matchup involving Willow and Magnus with the 2 cornermen. Abyss in the corner of Willow and Bam in the corner of Magnus. Now, we should have known there would be a lot of interference involving Bram and Abyss, and that's what kind of determined the ending. The first of many screwiness with a lot of interferences. But, despite that, this match was decent for what it was. Magnus did pretty well. He basically showing his new, really edgy, aggressive side in there. Really taking it to Hardy. And Hardy took over with his big flying moves, but then Bram grabbed a turnbuckle thing again. And that's when like he got involved. And Hardy did like a big fly move on Bram. And then of course Bram and Abyss got it on. They fought all the way to the back. Especially when Abyss was chasing him with Janice. And that distraction, that distracted Hardy. And Hardy was winning the matchup as he got distracted by Abyss getting Bram out of the way, he basically got distracted, and Magnus took advantage of that by getting a back suplex for the victory on Jeff Hardy. Magnus, well, his first kind of clean victory on Jeff Hardy. He's been Jeff Hardy before, but with a little help from people. Like, when he was a long involvement Team Dixie. But this is kind of a semi-clean finish. No one really got involved, but still, Hardy got distracted by something and helped Magnus get the victory. And I think Magnus looks better now than he was as world champion. His world championship one was kind of weird, being a paper champion, being a suit and tie guy, being a sellout. That whole thing never really sold people. But I think now with him and Bram, I think this relationship's going to develop a lot more. And I think like I said, it's giving Magnus his edge. It's giving his edge back. His aggressive viciousness of him that could really benefit from this relationship with Bram. And this side of Magnus could win him some new fans. 2.2 out of 5. It's a decent matchup, good action. The ending was kind of weird. With I should have known the interference was going to drain it, but still. It was still interesting to see Magnus get the win over Hardy. Big accomplished guy in TNA. Now on to our next matchup. Before we get to that, we have, of course, as you see by the subtitle, besides the titles being defended, we had a new inductee in the TNA Hall of Fame. Aries is WWE Hall of Fame. Kurt Angle, of course, Lashley's inductee, who should be in WWE Hall of Fame, came out to induct the new, or at least announce the new inductee, and to announce they'll be inducted formally at Bound for Glory in October. The Dudley Boys, aka TNA, Team 3D. I thought we would only see Bully Ray because Devon left the company a while ago, but then Devon came out and the crowd went nuts. Probably one of the biggest pops in the night, besides the Von Erich family. Was of course for Team 3D with very long We Want Tables chant, especially heading towards Bully Ray's match for later in the evening against EC3 in the Texas Death Match. And they were very appreciative of being in the Hall of Fame now. The TNA Hall of Fame, in my mind, it's kind of weird to have a Hall of Fame when you only have 3 guys in it. One is maybe in WWE, maybe not. Of course, before the Sting. Kurt Angle's in, and now Team 3D's in. Now, I think the real team in the Hall of Fame, and the guy had a sign to prove it, AJ and Jeff Jarrett. Now, those are 2 guys that made TNA from the ground up. But they have legal reasons why they won't induct them. AJ's no longer in TNA's Ring of Honor. And of course, Jarrett's got his own promotion. That makes sense. But in my mind, Kurt Angle and Bully Ray and Devon, Bubba Ray and Devon, should I say, they both belong better in the WWE Hall of Fame. Because those 2 built a good foundation for WWE during the Attitude Era. Great wrestlers in that era. But the see them in TNA is decent. They did well in TNA, especially Team 3D. They retired in TNA. Makes a whole lot of sense. Well, they kind of got back together as Ace and Ace, but it wasn't as good as it once was. When they were the Team 3D. And they're all indeed one of my favorite tag teams of all time. Get the tables indeed, and all my brother testifies. So congrats to Team 3D, the Dudley Boys. What you want to call them to be the next inductee in the TNA Hall of Fame. Now on to the next match. Probably the second best match tonight, in my opinion. It's Austin Aries taking on Kenny King. The other qualifier for the TNA title match main event. Who would join Lashley. These 2 guys just had a great match. Great match between both these great athletes. I've always been an Aries guy. When he first came back in 2011, I didn't really see him much when he was first in TNA, but when he came back, I was I was semi a fan, but not really a fan of him. Following his career, and there was a lot of Aries fans tonight. There was some great action for both these guys. Very fast-paced action for these 2 gentlemen. And Kenny King really looked good tonight. Kenny King's had some growing pains last couple years. Former X Division champion as Aries. Going for the big one. And, of course, Aries is another former TNA World Champion as well. But Kenny looked very good tonight. Some great moments for him. And, of course, great moments for Aries as well. Some great back and forth action. Great chops and great pinfalls. And Brian Hebner was the referee. And he's been kind of on pins and needles, trying to obey MVP. But now MVP is being watched. He doesn't have the match protected anymore, especially when we saw Dub getting pinned by Mr. King and his foot went on the rope. There was kind of a screwy moment, kind of weird moment with Aries was going for a submission move. The breaking up of the move was kind of a weird breakup. Like, they're like, Aries get poked in the eye or something. But anyway, the finish was kind of cool. Aries went up the top rope. It kind of did an aerial version, an off the top rope version. It looked like a suplex to me. But it looked like to many others. And I saw it later. The Brain Buster from the top. And a 1-2-3 victory for Austin Aries. Another, probably one of the other best spots of the night overall, besides a great spot from Manik during the ladder match. So Aries gets the victory, 3.3 out of 5. Like I said, the second best match of the night besides the ladder match. Like I said, these two guys, they could have a good feud between these two. Like I said, these guys put on a great matchup tonight, and they were given a great amount of time. So I was fearing, and even my dad and I were talking about this, because my dad watches this show too, that he was fearing that both Kenny King and Lashley were going to get involved. You know, make it a 2-on-1 handicap match basically against EY. But I was like, either it's, I hope it's like this. Lashley or Kenny King, and then Aries or Joe would advance. And it was indeed Lashley and Aries being the ones to advance to the TNA title match for later on in the evening. But then on to our next matchup involving the pay-per-view debut of the new generation of Von Erichs. The Von Erich 3Gs came out. But of course, Kevin Von Erich. Now, we've seen Von Erichs in TNA before. At least one Von Erich. Lacey Von Erich, who was greener than a rock. Because she's just a sloppy wrestler. But these two guys, Ross and Marshall, it's kind of weird that they're the same age as me and my brother. Ross, who's the younger one, he's 21, while my brother's 22. And Marshall, the oldest one, who wore shoes, because Ross was barefoot, Marshall was the one that had shoes, and he's my age, 26. So it's kind of cool to see real-life brothers who are actually the same age as me and my brother, Max. It's kind of cool. They took on the BROMANS. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because of course it was Jesse and DJ Z. Of course, for those who don't know, Robbie E, they're not saying this on the air. Robbie E is taping The Amazing Race. He's on The Amazing Race with his real-life girlfriend, Brooke Desmarker. So that's why you didn't see him tonight. I think these Von Erichs are better wrestlers than Lacey. They have great potential. And TNA needs a whole lot of new tag teams. They need a kick in the ass in the tag team divisions. They got the Wolves in the BROMANS. But you need some more tag teams to come in. And I think that Von Erichs got some great potential. Great potential to be good tag teams. Some great double team efforts from these fellas. Even BROMANS look decent in this matchup. And they teased the claw a few times. Of course, was probably the famous move from the Von Erich family. But we would see another Von Erich do it that wasn't, you know, one of the team guys. Because Jesse came in with the steel chair, causing disqualification as Von Erich did very the double team moves. And then Kevin came in, saw it coming in like a house of fire, probably one of the other biggest pops besides Team 3D. Then the claw from Kevin. The crowd went nuts for that. We're in Texas after all. Seriously, that was, like I said, very chaotic. But like I said, I think I think Marshall was the oldest one, was probably the most, because Ross is young. You know, Marshall's a little bit older. He's got a little bit more experience than his younger brother. But I think these two guys can indeed be good tag team once they hone their craft a little bit more. But they're, like I said, they're young. They got potential. They're diamonds in the rough. I think Von Erichs could be a great addition to the tag team division. 2.2 out of 5. Like, that great spot involving Kevin Von Erich was kind of interesting and fun to see that, and the crowd went nuts for that. So now on to, and I told we had a lot of screwiness tonight. That was the only real screwy finish that actually had a DQ. Because like I said, we had a lot of screwy things happen. But with the exception of the Von Erichs BROMANS match, all the other screwy finish endings actually had a clear-cut winner. No DQ finishes. But this match, of all the screwy endings, this is probably the screwiest of them all. For the Knockouts Championship, Angelina Love defending against Gail Kim. This was more sillier than a Divas match. I've been applauding the Knockouts division, saying they're better than the WWE Divas division, but this made the Knockouts division look really weak tonight. Really fucking weak. We've seen Stifler for the last couple weeks apparently being enamored or being paid off to kind of help lobby and be biased towards the beautiful people. I think we see through him tonight that his bias is really showing in this occasion. Especially the way the match went. Like, before the screwiness happened, the match was pretty good for a Knockouts match. With Gail and Angelina actually wrestling. What I've been lauding the Knockouts for actually wrestling. But then Velvet got involved with the hairspray. Now that's nothing new. What was the referee saw it in plain view and did not disqualify Velvet, proving once and for his bias towards beautiful people. But further proof will be in the pudding later on. So with Stifler not disqualifying Velvet after seeing her in clear view, who Hebner came out, who's had his relationships with the Knockouts, he kind of tagged himself in, and Gail kind of not solved that eye injury. With the, she got sprayed, but then when Hebner came in, it looked like she never got sprayed in the eyes at all. And she came in like a house of fire, again after Hebner came in. But then Hebner got knocked out. And then this is when the screwiness really got involved. And this is when Stifler's true colors really shine through. To be a biased referee towards the BPs. Gail nailed the eat the feet and had not one but two pretty predicaments. And with Hebner still down, Stifler did not get in there to count Gail's pinning attempts. That wasn't until Angie had a pin attempt. Then Stifler got in there to count the 1, 2, 3 with Angie winning. Now, I've been a big fan of both these two, but it was just a silly fucking finish. Probably the silliest finish of the entire freaking evening. 2.0. This is making the Divas look good right now. I'm sorry, because this match made the Knockouts division look very weak. Stupid finish. You know what I mean? This is probably the screwiest finish of them all with a biased referee, Stifler. This is like sloppy and silly all over the place. With the whole, referee not counting Gail's pins, yet he counted Angie's pins. And being biased and not disqualifying Velvet. And is it just me, or does Angelina Love remind me of a character from Captain Planet? Never really noticed it before until tonight. She reminds me of a Captain Planet character, Dr. Blight, who had that computer Mal. I cannot believe I'm making a Captain Planet reference. Because Captain Planet was made by Turner, who owned WCW. Now, on to our next match. After that little screwiness, speaking of match with screwiness, the Texas Death Match involving Bully Ray and EC3. Now, I was very disappointed in this match. Should have been way more violent for being a Texas Death Match. And in the words of Christopher Walken at SNL, we needed more cowbell! Because Bully Ray paid tribute to Texas wrestling by honoring those Texas legends, like mentioning the Freebirds and Terry Funk, and coming in with a cowbell in honor of Stan Hansen. And he should have used it as a weapon more. He did choke out EC3 with that, but he should have used the cowbell. Like I said, more cowbell. And we didn't see some weapons usage, but it wasn't enough. And no blood. That was the other big disappointment. No blood. Despite the fact we saw a cheese grater. I wish we saw the cheese grater used on the chest of EC3, but not the face. And then we saw a glass being brought out, and all the damage was being done to EC3's chest, not his face. He landed chest first on the glass, chest first on the grater, not face first. This ain't WWE. This ain't TVPG, damn it. That was, like I said, a big disappointment. So, there we go with that. And actually, despite that, EC3 looked decent this match. I've been kind of bitching about EC3's build, his slow build for the last few months of being undefeated. It's probably one of his best matches, for what it's worth, you know. And he had some good moves against Bully Ray despite the non-violent. Like I said, this match should have been more violent, in my opinion. And then, like I said, we saw a lot of tables being involved. And then, as we saw, we even saw the palm jar being hinted again. As Bully Ray tore off the wing apron, all that shit. He was going to power drive EC3 on the bare wing wood. And then Rockstar Spud came in, starting the train rolling for the numerous interferences in the matchup. With Rockstar Spud being nailed with a candlestick by Bully Ray. And then as EC3 was put through 2 tables on the outside that was set up earlier, here comes Andy and Dixie. And a cat and mouse game started. And then Dixie Carter ran, kind of bumped into EC3, knocking herself out in the process. Now, if you've been watching my reviews, I've kind of been saying that I kind of predicted that Bully Ray was going to try to put Dixie Carter through a table finally, either at Slammiversary or by Slammiversary. And this was the closest he got. She was knocked out. She was put on the 2 tables. But then Rockstar Spud got back up. And then he nailed Bully Ray with the candlestick. Actually, EC3 nailed him with the candlestick. And then EC3's crony Rockstar got Dixie out of harm's way. And then Bully Ray had the nail with that candlestick, got knocked off the top rope and went through those 2 tables. We heard the fans say bullshit because they wanted to see Dixie through that table. So EC3 got the victory. And EC3 still undefeated. I thought it was the night that EC3's undefeated streak should come to an end. But like I said, he looked decent tonight. Probably the best I've seen him look in a matchup against anybody. He's kind of improving. He's still better. I think he's better wrestling than YBE. I'll say that much. But like I said, for being in Texas with that match, and with a little bit of a screwy finish, not a lot of violence. Should have been more violent in my mind. I've seen better violent matches than this. You know, I love the weapons uses. Should have been more blood. And more cowbell. 3.0. Despite that, it was still an entertaining match. I'll say that much. But it should have been more violent, and the finish is just okay. Speaking of weird finish, the match that I was looking forward to was James Storm against Ken Anderson, because I loved their Impact match a few weeks ago, and I was hoping they would get a pay-per-view match. And for what it's worth, before the real Dallas Cowboys got involved, it was like the Impact match again. They had great action, great chemistry against each other, and plus the match was, like I said, my quips about this match. It was too short. Even had interference from the Cowboys. But it added to the match, though. You know, despite that. I did like it, though. I did like their involvement in the matchup. Because Storm is the Tennessee Cowboy. Of course, a lot of heat on the Cowboys tonight. A lot of heel heat on the Cowboys. Or at least Texas had something to cheer for. The Spurs won the championship tonight over the Heat. Fuck LeBron. Michael Jordan forever. Anyway, Storm even spilled beer on a helmet. And, like I said, he and Anderson, until the Cowboys got involved, they were putting on a good matchup. Good, once again, great back and forth action. But then Storm kind of got in the Cowboys' face with like 3 or 4 Cowboys. And I was kind of hoping they wouldn't get involved, but they didn't get involved because Storm was going to them and he flipped them off and he spat in their face. And then one of the Cowboys jumped in and tried to jump the barricade, and all the referees came out. And then one of them jumped the barricade anyway and got in. It was George Selvey getting involved and getting in Anderson's, not Anderson's face, but getting in Storm's face, which gave Anderson the opportunity to do the mic check and the 1, 2, 3. And he got nailed in the knee early in the matchup. I thought the match was going to suck when Storm nailed Anderson's knee. But Anderson did some great spots as well, including a big Death Valley drive from the top rope. That was a cool spot. But a Cowboys ball is what everyone's going to talk about. That was kind of fun, though. But I still wish they let these guys wrestle with enough time and with no interference. I think they have a clean match one day. 2.5 out of 5. It could have been a whole lot better. I was really looking forward to this matchup. It's still fun and entertaining with the Cowboys finish. But I want to see a lengthy clean match between these two guys because there was a lot of time constraint. They should have given more time. Like, I understand time constraints when it comes to pay-per-view. Time is money. But I would love to see these guys wrestle a proper match on a pay-per-view. Maybe Destination X would be the opportunity, even though that's not a pay-per-view. But it's a pay-per-view level event on Spike TV. But still, it was a fun match, though, with the Cowboys' involvement. Try to give TNA some more coverage on ESPN, which gets more viewers than their shows. Speaking of more people, at least Texas was semi-packed tonight. At least there was more than 300 people than at their baseball event, the baseball stadium. I saw the photos. God, that was atrocious. You know, Dixie's Winners Company, like I said, they have so much potential. I still watch. I like the support, but it's like they do silly things. But at least there wasn't a screwy finish in the main event for the Tna World Heavyweight Championship. EY defending against Austin Aries and Bobby Lashley. I think in my mind, like I know they're trying to replace MVP, but you know what they should have done? EY against Austin Aries one-on-one. Lashley wasn't needed. Especially when Lashley took himself out of it. I saw that spear spot through the cage door from a mile away. I saw that spot coming. One of many spots in the matchup, but another crazy spot was EY going up the top of the cage near on the elbow. It was a fun matchup. The main event was pretty good. Especially when it came down to just EY and A-Dub. Which proves my point that they should have just let these two fight one-on-one instead of having Lashley get involved. That's what I think they should have done. Because these two guys, once it became one-on-one, the fans were split. Especially, I said earlier, there's a lot of Aries fans. And I would have loved to have seen Aries win the title tonight. You know, I would have loved to have seen him win the title again. Especially the boo, yay! Seriously, these guys were just brawling. But Lashley did his part too. Especially being double teamed for the most part. Until he got taken out of the match by spearing through the door. Which, like I said, I saw that spot. When he was setting up for it, I was like, he's going to spear through that door. Called it. You know, when you watch wrestling as long as I have, I can tell when certain spots are going to happen. And I smelt that spear through the door move from a mile away. But, anyway, when it came down to EY and A-Dub, like I said, if they let these guys, that should be the Destination X main event. Because the Destination X is coming up, and usually they have like the Plan C. The X Division champion can cash in his title for the world title. I don't think Sanada's ready for a world title shot. I like Sanada, he's good, but I don't think it's world championship material. Yet. I think he might be one day, but he's just not ready yet. He's too new in the company. I think it should be A-Dub against EY one-on-one. Especially the way the match finished with Lashley trying to get in. I like the ending with AW going for the brain buster, and then AY carrying it with the pile driver and the finish 1, 2, 3 for EY retaining his TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Like I said, the fun matchup, great main event. I'm starting to grow a lot with EY being world champion, and I love his show No Limits. His show's awesome on Animal Planet. Cheap plug. 3.0 out of 5 as well. Like I said, that was one really good match and 3 decent matches. And this was one of those decent matches that got more than a 3 for me. So, got to see EY retain the championship. And like I said, no screwiness. I was so happy we had a clean main event with no bullshit finish for once in TNA pay-per-view. So, we see all the screwy finishes, but we always see the screwiness in the main event. Not this time. So happy. I've always made fun of Tina making bad mistakes, but at least didn't make a mistake of having another screwy main event on a pay-per-view. At least they didn't make that mistake again. At least they're starting to learn, but it's Tina for you. You know, I love them, but it's like, you know, like I said, Detroit Lions, wrestling. So there you go. That's my review of Tina. Like I said, Lashley did well. But like I said, A-Dub was... Like I said, A-Dub and EY should be one-on-one. I would love to see those two one-on-one. That should be an epic matchup. That should be Bound for Glory. That's Bound for Glory material. They shouldn't just let that main event be wasted on a thing like Destination X. That's what they should do. Austin Aries, Eric Young, Bound for Glory. Make it happen. Make it happen. I would love to see that match. Especially in a pay-per-view like Bound for Glory. As prestigious as Slammiversary is. That's what should be the Bound for Glory main event. Austin Aries, EY for the TNA whatever championship. If Aries and if EY retains his title to that long. That's what I think. Aries, Young, Bound for Glory title. Make it happen, TNA. At least make that decision good. So that's it for my Tna Slammiversary review. I don't know if I'll watch another pay-per-view, but hey, maybe one day for TNA. At least my first TNA pay-per-view review ever on YouTube. 6.5 out of 10. I think it was a fun, entertaining pay-per-view. With that in mind, y'all been attacked by the review from Zach. Thank you all again for watching. Happy Father's Day. I know it's going to be Monday by the time this video comes up, but happy Father's Day. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day with their dads, especially my dad, the Wody. Great Wody dad I could ever ask for him. Thanks again. See you later. Yeah.